playing Eugene Cesar. Did playing Eugene Cesar shoot Robert Kennedy from 3 inches, or did Sirhan shoot Kennedy? I'll bet my life Sirhan did not shoot Kennedy any more than I did. In fact, Gates had more to do with shooting Robert Kennedy than Sirhan did, and we got proof.
Ein, zwei, drei, spiel!
Digga, don't give me prime, my thoughts really flower. Digga, don't give me prime, my thoughts give me power. No scholar can laugh them, no hunter can trap them, no one can deny. Digga, don't give me prime.
What is democracy? Well, I guess power to the people.
Well, my concept of democracy is one person, one vote.
Democracy is where the public has the power to make policy.
It means action-oriented to me. It means doing something, not just once a year to go and vote for a candidate and have them represent you.
People have to be motivated so that it's meaningful to participate. They have to be informed so they know how they're participating, and they have to be facilitated, have access to the means of participation. All of these things.
We started as a nation fighting against colonialism. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence against British colonialism here.
The Constitution was really written for certain people, as you might know, the European people that was existing here.
The only people that had the right to vote under our original Constitution were property owners, were white male property owners. A Negro, at that time, Negro, was considered 3/5 of a person. There is a feeling that we sort of imported democracy maybe from Greece. There wasn't any European model. Our system of government actually was based on the Iroquois League. So much of that system was integrated into our system of government.
Happy 4th of July.
I think of democracy as the ideal, and I realize I don't live in an ideal world.
Everybody can vote. There is one man, one vote. But actually, who's represented? It's the people who have access to the representatives, which means mainly those people who are wealthy.
Money, I think, is that it sort of limits the terms of the debate. We no longer have a debate about whether we have a fundamental democratic right to breathe clean air. The debate becomes how much money is it going to cost the automobile manufacturers to enact these clean air standards. So it's assumed already that we're going to live with unclean air.
The American people are lied to from first grade through graduate school.
I remember during the Nixon administration, I watched him. He'd come on TV and he'd talk about Vietnam or Cambodia or Laos. Maybe he'd talk about the economy or China or drugs. As I watched him, I just could not believe anything he said.
Who shot President Kennedy? Walter Cronkite asked. Will we find an answer in our own lifetime, I wonder? Will the sealed documents reveal much?
It was like he was making stuff up on the spot. He wasn't working very hard. I mean, I wasn't particularly sophisticated and, well, anyway, what's the big deal about a politician lying?
You mean the single bullet fantasy, my husband says to Walter Cronkite.
Well, not only did this guy get elected, but he got elected twice.
I don't feel that we've ever really had democracy.
When we hear this word bandied about in the media, it's usually the version of democracy that has become identified with the Enlightenment in Europe and the American Revolution. A democracy extended to a narrow band of people within a larger population. It's a version of bourgeois democracy which evolved at the same time as capitalism, in which the franchise was extended to business people and to business interests. Bourgeois democracy was an expression of an economic system that sought to dominate the resources of the earth, whether they were the natural resources or the human resources, and bend them to the use of the people who were in a position to make use of these resources to transform them into wealth.
It started by stealing, of course, America itself from the American Indians.
No, they weren't Indians. The guy didn't know where India was.
United States wants Panama and took it. United States wants El Salvador, has taken it. Same with Nicaragua and Guatemala, the Philippines, Hawaii. Everywhere it can by armed force.
No pity. They came one night dressed in black. They had guns ready to kill and treat us like common criminals. They abused bodies of virgins and massacrally murdered their fathers. No pity, but anger ran through my veins.
The direction that the United States has been going is very, very dangerous and scary. I think we are approaching totalitarianism.
Even Hitler, in one of his speeches, used the word Germany is a democratic nation.
I stood up, but they cut my legs. I tried to talk, but they cut my tongue. I began to cry, but they cut my heart. No pity, no more anger, no more destruction. They had no ears, so they didn't listen. My body dropped and I died, but they failed. They were never able to take those years of heritage que mi abuelo me consagró.
The dominant consumer culture has sucked up the ability of the globe to sustain the kinds of life forms, including human life forms.
Safe and just, powerless, keep them down, on the ground, strangle choice, choke the voice.
People don't take authority over their lives in this country. They give their authority to other people. You know, they're not inner directed. They're outer directed in this society. In spite of all we have, people are still outer directed.
We need to decentralize. Neighbors need to get to know one another. We need to develop our own police forces. And we need to take power into our own hands and not rely on politicians to make our decisions and do all of our thinking for us. That's the only thing that's going to save us.
And that's what democracy is. If we choose, we really choose to decide that we want that power, we can take it back.
So I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure, my conscience decrees. This right I must treasure. I thought will not cater to you for defender. No one can deny.
Basically, we're talking about people determining, deciding, ruling, governing for themselves. And this is easier said than done.
We have been so terrified into thinking we need leaders, we need bosses, we need a hierarchy, we need someone to hand down edicts to us, that we're terrified at the thought of self-government.
Well, who becomes the leader, and does there have to be a leader? And it's difficult. We're not trained to cooperate, really. We're not really trained in our society to work with each other on an equal basis. We think that there has to be a leader, there has to be someone telling us what to do and guiding us.
This word jefe means boss or dictator in Spanish. And here's Mr. Jefe, okay? He's really in charge. He's got the God's eye view of the world. But the irony here is that he's not even quite a human, not even quite a snake, as a matter of fact. He's chopped up. He's only part of what a person really could be. So to me, dictatorship is this way. You have somebody running the place who cannot have really the bird's eye view, who really doesn't see everything. And no one can really see everything. It takes everybody to see everything. Not only that this person is chopped up, but that everything below gets chopped up as well, that he chops up everything to stay up on top there.
I think we can reach something called consensus democracy.
Every person involved in that decision or affected by that decision needs to have something to say about it.
I see the power in a circular fashion. Everybody's in the circle together. They all have a voice. Some of us have to be chiefs at times, and then others have to be the followers or the warriors, those who carry out the orders.
When we think of the survival of the fittest, we usually think in terms of the most powerful. The fittest is that which has learned to cooperate.
Groups that are perhaps, let's say, new tribes added to the gathering of tribes, or to the big white tribe, or the big men's white tribe. But new tribes that come into this gathering will be eventually like gays and lesbians, like all kinds of, like I heard at one point that there are now something like 52 languages spoken in Los Angeles. Each one of those tribal voices would have an equal say, would have equal access to the way we make decisions that affect all of our lives.
Self-empowerment means people deciding what's in their interest, and in this community in a way that is not inimical or harmful or subversive of other people's self-interest. That is, the interrelationship, interdependence is crucial to democracy. It can't be every man or every person for themselves. That is not democracy.
I've heard statistics where 30% of our citizenry is functionally illiterate. How can you have an informed vote when people can't read? You can't have true kind of decision-making processes with an uninformed electorate. And that's what we've got.
Hey, I'm 47 years old, and I thought 20 years ago I knew it all, but I find out coming back to school has advanced me quite a bit.
Most students are still pretty open, and you can get them to make certain new connections and realizations, and you do put them off in a new direction in their life. And in that sense, you do empower them because you show them how important their own mind is and their own contributions are to their society.
Now, I'm a naturalized citizen of this country, which gave me a little different perspective to democracy. I think that democracy has to do a lot with education, making choices. How do people make the right choice?
I think a good place to start is Rousseau and the social contract. Rousseau asked the question, what makes authority legitimate? And his answer is agreement and consent of the people.
But they eventually come back to the individual who have to make the selection, the right choices, the right idea. So they have to be educated.
Well, I tell the student that Rousseau argues implicitly that if you refuse to get involved, you're giving up your power to other people. You're allowing other people to control and manipulate your life. So this is the best argument to get involved in the democratic process, is to exercise your own rights and power and not let other people do that to you.
Because once you got education, and I'm speaking about the young kids that are coming up now, if they get real educated, these kids, this way they'll understand what their Constitution right, their amendment, and they will take it in perspective, and they'll start practicing it, and they'll go right down to our Capitol in Sacramento and start pushing these issues. They'll start pushing the issues at the White House. Then you have no alternative. They would have to change.
Democracy, by definition, being ruled by the people, it's very essential that we have an informed democracy. And as our country has developed, that is almost impossible.
The majority, not to speak of all the people, don't have access to information, can't compare issues and candidates. Well, that's a facade.
Media is controlled by the multinational corporations.
It's supposed to be an information society. It's just amazing to me how much information is withheld from us.
Right.
We'll find out later what the truth of things were, and it's all done under the guise of national security.
How can we think this could be a democracy when the savings and loan thing is only mentioned in a few books and a few papers and forgotten about? That BCCI was settled out of court. You understand what that means? This was the CIA's main international drug laundering facility worldwide. And the U.S. Justice Department, with Barr, Attorney General, who was chief counsel for the CIA, settles out of court? Come on. This stinks. That should have caused a bigger riot than the acquittal on the Rodney King trial.
If you watch NBC, for instance, you're not going to get much anti-nuclear information because General Electric owns Channel 4.
The drug problem, that's an issue that's being used to divert people's attention from other issues that are more important perhaps, such as the race issue even. Drug issue, they spent so much money on it. And the whole idea of curtailing drug use is in itself an anti-civil liberties issue. Searches without warrants and stops on the streets because people look suspicious, and a lot of the blame is put on minorities. I know at least more than 50% of all drug use is by whites, in white middle-class neighborhoods. And so, the media focuses mostly on the inner city problems with the gang violence and everything. But they don't focus on the whole issue.
We also have an electorate whose attention is continuously diverted away from learning what's going on. It's much more important for you to have the right kind of body. So you are lured away to go and spend time in the gym getting this perfect body, whatever it is.
In fact, that's what the media was invented to do, was to validate and spread this idea of civilization.
Just to say, here, you're free to vote. To vote for what? For whom? How? Most people don't know. It's a full-time job now, literally a full-time job. If you as an individual want to find out all the issues, all the candidates, all the parties, adequately to be informed.
It's too much energy, People have to work 8 hours a day, and they have to drive 2 hours to get to that 8-hour job. And then when they're so tired, when they get home, they just want to sit in front of the TV. So when do they have time?
One way to remedy that, which I propose, is to have what I would call a public funding of the voter, not to give money to candidates or parties, but rather to an informational mix, so that by public forums, media, television, radio, etc., mailings, ballot pamphlets, a mix of information that every voter could be adequately informed if they wanted to be, and easily, on the range of issues, candidates, and political parties.
I'd like to see a system more like Australia, perhaps, where the government provides the money for all candidates and they all have equal amount of time, and they don't begin their democratic elections until a month or so before they're due, and everybody has the same opportunity, everybody has the same amount of time.
I had a really interesting fight with my mom when I was young and impetuous, and we were having one of those passionate rows that one can only have with a parent. And it was about American politics, and my mom, who was a staunch right-wing Republican, said to me, "Wait a minute, did you vote in the last election?" And I said, "No." And she said, "This discussion is over. You want to talk to me about politics, vote." Mm-hmm. And I agree with that.
You're forced to choose a so-called lesser evil candidate because you're afraid the one you really believe in doesn't have a chance of winning, your vote will be wasted. Well, I have a way around that too, namely a different voting system. And there are many voting systems. For example, you could have a voting system in which you could vote yes or no, approve or disapprove, accept or don't accept all the candidates. So instead of you have 3 or 4 or 5 candidates for president or governor, instead of voting for one and being forced into either making the choice between the lesser evil or your favorite candidate who you feel will not win, and therefore you, quote, waste your vote, unquote, if you can vote yes or no on all the candidates, you're able to more truly, not perfectly, but more truly express your choice.
People don't want to be bothered because they don't want to take the time to read or follow up on certain issues. But then when you have things impact you personally, it kind of awakens your appetite to know who is really on your side, who is for the issues that you're interested in.
Connect television, computer, and telephone systems together and implement a true type of pure democracy electronically where voters are telespherically connected to one another, not just in saying yes or no on the proposals of a handful of elite, but actually drafting proposals from the grassroots.
And the co-op to me is I'm voting by saying I want organic food, I want pesticide-free food, I want products that are not tested on animals. I'm voting for this with my dollars. I guess I could shop in a regular health food store, but a co-op really means something very important to me because I do want to participate and I do want to have a say.
The porpoises and the whales come up on the beaches to die when their environment isn't working anymore, and that's their vote.
I think that in this country, people get it mixed up, that democracy necessarily means capitalism and competition, and I don't think that those things really have anything to do with each other.
We can start with expanding the whole definition of democracy to not include simply people, but also the ecosystem that these people exist in, which means that not their ability to be a productive unit in the corporate consumer culture's economy, but in their own culture defined as an ecosystem.
Taking the principles of ecology, which are things like interdependence, change, diversity, these are some key principles of ecology, and applying these, I think, fairly and realistically to human and political affairs.
It's not enough to save the rainforest. We have to save the people who actually know how to live in the rainforest.
To do things that maximize our self-rule in a way that are related to other people's maximizing their self-rule, which means interdependence, interrelationship, an ecological perspective.
What we need now is a renaissance, a regeneration of ideas and creative ways of dealing with what we have lost during this last, well, what shall we say, 300 years of bourgeois democracy.
Get people to begin to work on things, no matter what they are, that concern them immediately in their own lives. And then to see how to accomplish that end, they have to work with other people, it deals with other issues, and then they work out from there. Inevitably, every issue, no matter how small, leads to every issue, no matter how big, and vice versa. We're limited only by our imagination, only by our understanding, only by our relation to other people.
Well, I think everyone needs to get involved in democratizing their workplace, get involved in the union movement. If you have a union where you work, if you don't, you should work to get a union where you work.
I write articles, I research, I sit in on meetings, both public and secret, taking notes. And based on the information I gather, I print up flyers, pass out information to people in a guerrilla theater sort of manner to attract attention. And I also write songs and play songs based on information that I gather in a satirical sort of manner.
3, 1, 2, oh, promise yourself to be strong, to be just, to be noble and cheerful.
Women are knocking on the door, and gays and lesbians are knocking on the door, and all kinds of ethnic groups are pounding on the door for parity in a system that is run by vested interests and will not open the door because it doesn't feel it needs to.
My hope is that something gets under the skin of the American people.
Power is not something anybody gives anybody else. It has to be wrested from. And until people understand the nature of that game in our system, they're not going to get power.
Well, let's do the whole last verse.
All right, we'll
maybe,
do the whole last verse?
Is that okay?
So if time is take me and throw me in prison, my thoughts will burst free like blossoms in season.
I shoot my mouth off a lot. I try to stay informed myself, but I also try to inform. I try to inform constantly. I try to inform in the supermarket. I try to inform with the waiter or waitress who, when I'm having a meal. I try to inform on the bus. I try not to conform.
Foundations will crumble.
Because the people is the government. You can't throw the people away.
The structures will tumble.
If you respect the Constitution, you'll respect the Declaration of Independence.
And free people will cry.
We can beat City Hall. We can even change City Hall. We can even get by without City Hall. These are all possible.